Thank you for all your responses, both to the flip grid activity and the ed puzzle just before this lecture. So by now, you would have known and met the robot ethicist. And I hope that at this point, you have a clearer idea of what this field of study truly is, not ethics. But I'd also like to make some further clarifications in this short video. I hope this does not bore you, but hopefully it makes you think more about the subject matter and some of the more pressing and you might say foundational questions as to this field of study. So this is an introduction to the study of ethics, why and what. Okay, so there are certain things that I'd like to talk about in this short video and actually the next. No? So I'm dividing this introduction into two short clips. No? Number one, I'd like to talk about two pivotal concepts. They're pivotal in the sense that they churn the questions and the possible interrogations on the notion of ethics and morality. Now, these are the notions or concepts of change and diversity. And later I will explain why. Number two, I'd like to talk about two fundamental uh, views of ethics. Now, one, the original Greek conception of ethics as an examination of life, and two, ethics as we know now, no, as a field of study, as a science of conduct. So later I will explain what we mean by that. No, if ethics is a science, how come it's within philosophy? No, so perhaps I need to give some clarifications. And then I'd like to talk about the moral dilemma. Moral dilemma is one of the most important concepts that you will encounter as we go through this class. In fact, in every module, we are going to deal with moral dilemmas either as examples or as exercises, no? So that you can hone your moral deliberation skills. And then towards the end, I'd like to simply make a stipulative distinction between morality and ethics. These two terms, morality and ethics, they're quite interchangeable. And in my experience, having been a student of ethics for a long, long time, textbook authors have been making different ways of making sense of these two concepts. So for our purposes, we will agree, hopefully, on some basic distinctions between the two concepts. And then I'll end with the concept that I've been using for quite some time now. It's ethics. By ethics, I mean a community of ethical learners. No, sorry, no, not ethical learners, but learners of ethics who want to come up with a fuller understanding of ethics as an ever-evolving field. Okay, so just realized I have not. Okay, there you go. So let me now start. Okay, so these are the two concepts that I mentioned earlier. Number one is change, no, and number two is diversity. And why are these two concepts important to mention at the outset? Because these two concepts pose a basic foundational challenge to ethics. Change, no, ethics, just as many other things in the world, is prone to change. Some action which may have been considered wrong long time ago may be considered right at some point in time. No, I'm sure you can think of an example. I don't have to give my own example at this point. No, just think about some things which were told you long time ago. Mali ito, no, and how the same thing may be considered right now, for example. No, another concept is diversity. So it's not just time that changes the ontological status of morality, at least for some people. It can also be diversity. No, so some action may be considered right in a particular geographical locality and wrong in another place. No, so what does this mean? No, so these two change and diversity, they pose a great challenge for the study of ethics. No, is there really right and wrong, good and bad when it comes to actions or even to dispositions, no, or character? So that is what we're going to find out, no, as we explore this field of study. So let's begin with the definition of ethics. No, well, these two are only two of the many ways of defining or understanding ethics. Now, one, it's an examination of life. Now, and I suppose historically speaking, this is the um, one of the first ways of conceiving ethics. Now, it was Socrates, the Greek philosopher, teacher of Plato. Now, Plato, another Greek giant, no, in philosophy. Socrates was the first to probably give some space to the study of ethics, or well, at that time it was not a study, not just as it is a study now, no, but say a space for some discourse on ethics, on and about ethics. No, before Socrates, most Greek philosophers were concerned with the problem of reality, no, of the ultimate principle that governed the multiplicity of things and entities in reality is, no, or was, no. It was Socrates who first confronted another issue altogether. It wasn't an issue of that primary principle or arche, but rather the question of what does it mean to live a good life? No, what does it mean to live a life worth living? No, so naiba siya, no? Those who came before him, they were more concerned with the more scientific question. Ano ba yung realidad? Ano ba yung mundo? Bakit ba ganito ang mundo? No? Why is there so much change, no, despite the permanence that we also find in the world? So, yun yung concern nila. No? But then here came Socrates, who posited another issue. Sabi, hindi ko pa nang pag-usapan yung ganun, no? I'm more concerned with something that is, well, at least to Socrates, more important, the question of examining one's life, no? And Socrates devoted his entire life, no, uh, towards the realization of this problem, so much so that towards the end of his life, in his trial, no, Socrates was eventually indicted and tried in Athenian court. And one of the famous lines of Socrates there was, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Through and through, Socrates stood up for the need to examine one's life. No? And this examination of life, as of course you now understand, is what ethics is all about, or at least during Socrates' time, was all about. No? There was no formal field of study that they had before, no? Just like what we have now. No? But it was just an attempt at looking at one's own life, no, and understanding what it means to be a good person, what it means to to be a person whose soul has been assured of say immortality, no, because the person whose soul has been examined uh, is more prepared, no, prepared prepared to live an immortal life, no? Kasi there is a process of purification in living a good life, no? So para kay Socrates, why live a life, no, without examining what it means to live a good life? No, in other words, functional, no? If you have a life, why would you not want to have the best version of it, no? So if you can live in a just manner, if you can live in a manner that is befitting to your function, why would you not want that? No? So to be the best version of yourself, no? In this endeavor, Socrates started is of course ethics. No, now in the present time, in the contemporary world, of course, ethics has been professionalized in a sense. No, but even outside the university, no, for lay people, for example, not that university people are not lay, but I'm sorry, not lay people. I mean, ordinary people outside the university, outside the academy. No, pag tanungin mo, halimbawa, ano ba yung ethics sa'yo, no? I guess your preliminary notions, the answers that you provided in the first activity, ano ba yung ethics for you, no? I guess many people will find that ethics is it's a field of study, no, of good and bad, right and wrong, no, and by that they actually mean it's a science of conduct, no, and it is a science not in the same sense as biology is a science or chemistry is a science or physics is a science, but it's a science in the sense that it's also an intellect. It is also an intellectual enterprise, which means that hindi ito bola-bolan lang, no? This is a serious matter for those who actually study ethics, no? We try to understand what it means for something to be good and for something to be right, for example. And it's a rational enterprise, no, which means it's reasonable, no, and it as a field of study, it utilizes reason and not just say feelings or maybe say a pseudoscience in order to look into its subject matter, good and bad. No, ethics uses the tools of reason, the tools of logic. Know what is logical, what is commonsensical, what is reasonable. No, in order to advance its theories. No, and these kind of intellectual enterprise is geared towards a certain issue, and this issue is conduct. It was Thomas Aquinas who made the distinction between two kinds of acts. No, number one, acts of humans, and number two, human acts. What's the distinction? And why is it material in the present study? Well, acts of humans are any acts emanating from the human. An example would be a flip of your hair or pouting of your lips. No, they are considered acts of humans because they are your actions, no? Whether or not you are aware of them or not. So in effect, they are just about any kind of stuff which you may consider verbs, no, or action words. On the other hand, human acts are surely they're also acts, they're also verbs, no, grammatically speaking, but human acts are different in the sense that these acts are freely chosen by the human person. As such, the human person becomes an agent. No, there is a change being initiated by the human person in deciding, in initiating a particular human act. No, a flip of a hair or a pout of your lip or a snore as you sleep, these are considered acts of humans because they're just acts, no, whether or not the human is aware of that or not, aware of them or not. But a human act is something that we freely choose, no, helping the needy, killing another person. These are acts that you cannot just do without deliberation, without actually intending to. No? And as such, these acts are not just acts of human, they are called human acts. No? And human acts for Aquinas is strictly speaking, and of course we adopt this distinction in class, are strictly speaking moral acts. No, they are the ones that we'd like to talk about when we talk about ethics. Now, those that humans freely choose, intend, and uh, decided on. Okay, so I will pause here. It's been quite a long discussion, and I'm guessing many people have been bored by that. So I'd like you to proceed to assignments tab in your Canvas class and access the exercise and dilemmas. After which, proceed to the next part of this module, and that will be on dilemmas. Okay, see you.